never seen a campaign like this.
It really is a choice between division or unity.
Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump delivered their closing argument.
Hillary Clinton is guilty. She knows it. The FBI knows it.
Voters will render their verdict tomorrow night. Tonight, we have the final projections for president and control of the House and Senate. And we'll put the candidates to the test. We'll sit down with Senator Marco Rubio, Congressman Patrick Murphy, Congressman David Jolly, and former Governor Charlie Crist. Plus, John Wilson weighs in with his view on the election. This is Money, Power, and Politics. Okay, Marissa, here we go. This is it. Let's start with those Fox 13 poll numbers just in, hot off the press. Marissa, what do you see here?
Well, it looks like Trump is gaining a little bit of support, a little bit of ground here in the state of Florida. He's only down by 2 percentage points, and we've got, what, hours until Election Day, just an hour and a half at this point. It shows that he's gaining some support from those independents and those 45 and older.
Let's now take a look at the national projections here. It still favors Hillary Clinton, according to the Fox Decision Desk. Right now, she, when you count the states leaning Clinton and solidly in her corner, have more than the 270 needed in order to win. So, Marissa, what does Trump have to do?
Most certainly needs to change one of those blue states red. That's what he's got to do, because he's not going to gain enough even with those toss-up states.
And he's looking at Michigan, all about Michigan. And that's because you don't have early voting in that state, so maybe anything goes. Clinton underperforming across the nation among African Americans. And given the manufacturing losses in that state, Trump hopes that that can help him. Meanwhile, Trump, take a look, spent this day starting in Sarasota. That was the first stop, showing that it is all about Florida. But from there, he headed off to North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and New Hampshire. But again, closed off this night campaigning with Mike Pence in the state of Michigan.
And meanwhile, Hillary Clinton's campaign team was spread out across the country. The Democratic nominee was in Pennsylvania and Michigan, 2 states that are leaning Democrat at this point, and she capped off her final day of campaigning in North Carolina as this election season starts to wind down.
Then you have this Comey November surprise, so he takes back what he took back when he exonerated. A little confusing there. Well, that certainly helps Clinton. It clears her. On the flip side, you have Donald Trump maybe benefiting from this because it has more people losing faith in the FBI, losing faith in government here. You also have a very big Senate race. That's where we're going to head over. After Comey's decision, it can have an impact not just on the presidential race, but on the Senate races as well. And in the Florida Senate race, you have Marco Rubio, who said some choice things about Donald Trump along the way, and that's where I picked up my interview with him. In the race, you've made a pretty powerful case against Donald Trump in the course of endorsing him. And here's the part I want you to address. How can you say that Donald Trump cannot be trusted with the nuclear codes, and with that concern still be willing to vote for him?
Well, for me, the primary is over, and the voters have chosen their nominees, and so it's a binary choice. Hillary Clinton is the most dishonest person to run for president in a quarter century.
So with Hillary Clinton, you have concerns about trust and believe that there would be a policy agenda that would take the nation in the wrong direction. But with Trump, you're worried about nuclear codes, which would heighten the risk of the end of the world. Does that not override the concerns you have about Hillary Clinton?
No, my concerns aren't just about issues. Hillary Clinton is the only person running for president who has mishandled and misused classified information.
But you've said that you stand by your concerns about Trump not being trusted with the nuclear codes. Does that mean you think there would be a heightened risk of a nuclear attack with Trump as opposed to Clinton?
Again, I'm telling you that Hillary Clinton is the only person running for president that's mishandled classified information.
And round, there we go. Again, Rubio has led in our Fox 13 polling now for months.
But his opponent, Patrick Murphy, will not admit that he is the underdog in this race.
No, that was pretty clear when he sat down with Evan Axelbank. Take a look.
You have been down in many of the polls until maybe a week ago or so. You've pulled even in some of them. Do you feel as though you're the underdog in this race?
I feel very confident that we're going to win this election. And the polls
but you wouldn't use the word underdog.
No, I wouldn't. And look, in my first race against Alan West, dating 4 years ago, we were in a very competitive race, and we were outspent in that race 4-1, 5-1, just like this race. You see, the Koch brothers and the right-wing special interest groups that are supporting Senator Rubio are continuing to try to smear my record and distract from his terrible record of not showing up to work.
Why do you believe that Hillary Clinton always seems to be 3 or 4 points nosed ahead of you there?
Her name ID is almost universal, as is Donald Trump and as is Marco Rubio. He ran for president. He spent the last several years running for president, in fact. I'm a congressperson in Florida's 18th congressional district. Been running for the Senate since March of last year, but my name ID is, maybe 60%. I don't know.
So PolitiFact, as you've cited, you mentioned your history as a CPA. PolitiFact, as you have cited in your own arguments that you've made during this campaign, they say, maybe you went a little bit too far in saying that they cleared you in overstating your credentials. So let's put that aside and just say, do you owe anybody an apology for the way you've characterized your experience?
No, I am a CPA, right? There's no two ways about it. There's no gray area. Either you are or you aren't. I am a CPA, plain and simple.
Well, of course, a lot of people who turn out to vote for president, and the turnout can have a big effect on that Senate race.
It really can, and that's why Evan also crunched the numbers here to find out what impact Trump versus Clinton can have on Rubio versus Murphy. Take a look.
How's this for a Republican ticket in Florida?
Tell us how you can support Donald Trump now, after all of this, after calling him a dangerous con artist.
Well, look, what I've said is I'll support the Republican nominee because Hillary Clinton can't be president. I think she's terrible. That's how bad she is. That said, bottom line is that my differences with Donald remain. I stand by everything I said in the campaign.
Awkward. Especially because Marco Rubio will need Trump's enthusiastic conservative supporters to help him beat Patrick Murphy. Let's assume, though, the polls are right, that Hillary Clinton is going to win Florida on November 8th.
It'll be close. Florida is always going to be close. I mean, there's a large number of people that are locked in on both sides.
What does that mean for Marco Rubio? Will Florida support a Democrat for president and a Republican for Senate? Since 1964, there are only 2 cases of Florida backing a presidential candidate from one party and a senator from the other. In 2000, Republican George W. Bush won Florida by a smidge, while Democrat Bill Nelson won his first term by 5 points. In 1992, Republican George H.W. Bush won Florida's electoral votes, while Democrat Bob Graham won his second term. But 2000 was barely a GOP win, and Bob Graham was an institution. Rubio is in a statistical dead heat with Patrick Murphy and faces the prospect of being dragged down by Donald Trump's rhetoric with several groups key to his own base. A September poll showed Trump with only a 28% approval rating amongst Hispanics and behind Hillary Clinton by 30 points in Rubio's home county of Miami-Dade. While Rubio has to outperform Trump among those groups, Rubio still needs those who vote for Trump to pull the lever for him, a tough predicament considering Rubio's relatively moderate stance on immigration. Look at this video and see how hard Rubio works to keep Trump's voters relatively close, while also distancing himself from what Trump says in hopes of keeping his coalition together.
Have any cracks opened in your pledge to support the Republican nominee?
I made a pledge to support the nominee. I'm going to do that. You can do that and still have strong reservations about some of the things that are being said and done.
If Rubio can win, even with Trump's baggage, it would be quite the feather in his political cap. Evan Axelbank for Money, Power, and Politics.
All right, thanks, Evan. Well, coming up, we have one of the hottest congressional races in the nation right here in Tampa Bay.
Yep, David Jolly and Charlie Crist are in the fight of their lives. We'll sit down with both of them and put them to the test.
All right, now joining us is former Florida Governor Charlie Crist. Thank you for joining us on this eve of one of the biggest elections we've seen in our lifetime.
You're not kidding. It's great to be with you, Merissa and Craig. Always a pleasure. We've known each other quite a while, but no, I'm happy to be here. I like that it's Fox 13. We're running in District 13 in Pinellas County.
It's been a tough race, and you have Congressman Jolly, who has criticized you for your prior relationship with Donald Trump for accepting contributions from him in the past and saying that Trump was good for Florida. Put it in context for us. How was Trump good for Florida, and do you regret accepting any contributions from Trump in the past?
Well, as Mr. Trump said himself, he's given to everybody. I think he's given to Republicans, Democrats, independents. It's what he does.
To the point that you said he was good for Florida. What did you mean by that at the time, and do you still think that he was?
Well, he has a significant hotel in Palm Beach County. Now he has one in Miami-Dade County. Those employ a lot of people. Jobs are good for people.
Now, Jolly has also attacked you for promoting chain gangs back in the 1990s. Why did you support them, and would you change anything now about that?
Because I believe in justice, Merissa. I know at the time when I was in the state Senate and we passed that and the 85% law that criminals would have to serve at least 85% of their sentence instead of the only 20% that they were serving at the time, Florida then was #1 in violent crime in America.
What if the crime rate shot back up to the mid-1990s levels? Would you then consider chain gangs in any form?
I don't think it would be necessary today. I really don't. I just think you have to have laws on the books that exhibit in a clear, convincing way that there are consequences to your actions when you violate the law, when you rape a woman, when you kill one of our senior citizens or break into their home. These aren't funny things. This is not a laughing matter. My opponent's using it in a racial context. He couldn't be more wrong. It's a safety issue.
As a Social Security not financially stable at the track that it's going now, what would you change about that?
Well, it's fairly financially stable right now, but it can be more so. You're right. And what I've talked about during the campaign, one of the first bills I'd like to introduce, if I have the good fortune to win tomorrow, is to make sure that those who make more than $118,000 a year, where the cap is right now, would be included and have to participate and help pay for Social Security. If we lifted the cap, as they say, and those who earn more than $118,000, then Social Security would be solvent virtually forever.
Former Governor Charlie Crist, thank you for your time.
Good to be with you. Thank you. And please vote Pinellas.com.
Now, Crist has an advantage in the Pinellas U.S. House race because the district favors Democrats.
But Republican David Jolly is the incumbent, and that carries an advantage in itself, Merissa.
But Jolly says the national Republicans cut him off for his position on campaign finance reform.
Okay, please welcome Congressman David Jolly. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, great to be with you.
All right, Merissa, where do we start?
Well, let's just start with a bang here. You've previously said that Donald Trump is unfit to be president. Where do you stand on that today?
I'm not supporting Mr. Trump. I do recognize and appreciate the conviction of millions of people who are. Right? I have strong policy differences with Mr. Trump, and so for me, I won't be supporting him on Tuesday. But I encourage everybody to get out and vote for who you think is right for America. And for a lot of people, that means Donald Trump.
So Kasich wrote in John McCain's name. Who are you voting for then?
Listen, I think I'm in that basket of millions of Americans who are struggling.
You decided who you're going to vote for?
I haven't. No, that's the reality. And listen, I shared with somebody recently, a paper reporter, this isn't a gimmick. I think this reflects the heart and soul of a lot of people in the Bay Area who are struggling with two historically unfavorable candidates. And I know people have chosen theirs. I don't know what I'm going to do on Tuesday. That's the honest truth.
What about medical marijuana, Amendment 2?
So what I've said about marijuana is when the FDA approves it for medicinal purposes, then I would support it. But we don't approve medicines on the ballot. I don't want voters approving a cough medicine or marijuana for my nieces to take.
Why do you oppose raising the federal minimum wage?
So here's what I say on minimum wage. Let's index it and get the politicians out of it. The minimum wage or the wage floor should not be dependent on which political party controls Congress. Listen, if I thought we could raise the minimum wage to $15 without reducing jobs, great, let's do it. But the reality is every time we walk into a McDonald's or a restaurant, we see a kiosk, not an employee, because it's becoming cheaper to use technology instead of employees. I want to raise wages as high as we can in a manner that also allows for job growth, and that's the bottom line.
On Social Security, you want to protect benefits for everybody in the workforce today.
That's right.
What about students who are not yet in the world of work? How much would you cut their benefits?
Oh, I don't think we need to cut. Listen, here's what I've broken from my own party. I've voted against the Ryan budget and other Republican budgets. I voted against Democratic budgets as well because I think they're both political showpieces. But for the generation about to enter the workforce, Social Security will still be the best in the world, but it might look different. Is it personalized? It is a safety net program. Do we raise the contribution limits to $100,000 to $200,000 or $300,000? Make everybody contribute. Math is math. If we extract the politics out of this, we can reach a reasonable compromise. What I've learned in 3 years is the solutions, the long-term solutions to Social Security, do not rest on either side of the aisle. They're somewhere in the middle. And I'm willing to reach consensus on that as we protect benefits for the retirees now and those in the workforce.
Congressman Jolly, thank you for your time.
You got it. Great to be with you.
All right, coming up, John Wilson gives us his take on the races in the wild year in politics.
This is John Wilson's My View now.
And please welcome John Wilson once again. So you've lived in Pinellas County for decades, and boy, we've got a heck of a congressional race on our hands. How does this one stack up to you?
Yeah, a district that's been redrawn. How many times? 3 times probably in the last 20 years. Yeah. This district is going to be an interesting fight here because now it includes many Democrats. It didn't before.
Oh, it leans Democrats, sure.
You know, now Charlie Crist has got a shot at this. Dave Jolly has done a good job. He served for 20 years with Bill Young. He knows this district better than anybody. He's from Indian Shores. So the two of them together make for a really interesting pair. Their debate was really a hard one to watch for me because I don't like to see people snapping at each other like that, and it was brutal. Charlie got after Dave, and David got after Charlie, and you know, I think what's going to happen here, Craig, is that it's going to depend on the movement for Donald Trump. Republicans, like Democrats, they have to vote, and many of them have a history in their older years of not voting, and in some cases their very early years of not voting. So now they've got to vote.
Yeah.
And if Donald Trump can turn out a huge Republican vote, I think Dave Jolly's going to win this. If, on the other hand, it's a pro-Hillary vote, then Charlie could win this.
I think it'll be close one way or the other.
It's going to be close no matter who wins, because both of them are well known. Their names are well known, but Charlie in particular, being the former governor.
Speaking of pretty close, what about this other big race we have statewide? Rubio, the incumbent, versus Murphy.
I can't believe that's so close in the polls. That surprises me, that Murphy has been able to show such a powerful turnout here, at least among the pollsters. Now, I don't believe polls, but they are a slight indicator, and they can change a lot, so you don't put faith in these polls, but they are something to, at least to talk about, that it does show something, because we don't know exactly who's polled, and are they really going to vote, and are they even qualified to vote? We don't know that all the time. Sometimes we do. In this case, I think Marco Rubio's got a problem, and Murphy's been able to capitalize on it because Marco Rubio focused his career on running for president and missed all those Senate days because he was out campaigning. He said he didn't like it in the Senate. I could mount a campaign against Marco Rubio, I think, just based on his lack of interest in the U.S. Senate when he was running for president.
That's right. And then Murphy, who's not particularly well known across the state,
who
has some baggage as
no
well.
name recognition to amount to anything, running against a guy who's got a lot of it. What's that tell you? That there's a lot of momentum for Patrick Murphy.
John, thank you.
You bet.
So it's not,
Yeah, no, look at me jumping all over you. Okay, I'm excited because we're heading into Tuesday. We're finally here, right?
I know, we're less than 24 hours away.
And we have some predictions here as promised. We're going to start off, with Amendment 2?
Amendment 2, the legalization of medical marijuana, and it looks like it has a good shot of passing at this point. The polls say it already has 60% of the vote.
And you need 60% here in Florida. Also, some other predictions on our end. The House, Democrats had a chance here, but they're not going to get the votes they need in order to flip the House. But the Senate, different story. Bet that Democrats may have the inside track to gaining 4 to 5 seats based on all the numbers that we are seeing. Also, see our extended interviews with the candidates on our YouTube channel, Craig Patrick's MoneyPowerandPolitics.com. Here we go.
See you tomorrow.